Let's face it, the people who want to climb Mount Everest are usually very ambitious, goal-oriented people, people with mental and physical toughness, people with some level of audacity to actually want to go and try to climb to the highest point in the world, some seeking some element of spiritual fulfillment, and others who just want the rush of going for it on one of the most incredible mountains in the world. Unfortunately, every year, many people lose their lives on the mountain. 2023 was no different. In fact, in 2023, more people lost their lives on Mount Everest than in any other season. 18 individuals died there. This is part 2 of a 2-part series in which I'm going to name every single individual who died on the mountain and talk a little bit about them to try to bring a face to these names. One of the other unfortunate things is how misunderstood these people are. In the comments on this channel alone, there are countless comments from people saying, I feel bad for the Sherpas, but for those rich Westerners going there just for some ego boost, they kind of had it coming. Respectfully, I couldn't disagree anymore. In 2019, from the Tibet side, my team noticed a long line of climbers making their way to the top. And in advance of that summit day, we had made the conscious decision to let the crowds filter through and wait so we would have the mountain essentially all to ourselves. On that day, it went viral around the world of these long, what they call conga lines to the summit of the mountain. Here's a shot on the south side, the Nepal side of the long line going to the top. We were on the north side, where there were also quite a number of people, but not nearly as bad as on the south side. It would have been easy to look up there and shake our heads at the crowds and say, I'd never do that. But the fact is, we had some conversations that really revealed a great inspiration and admiration for anybody who would go to such lengths to try to climb the mountain. There's always that possibility that you're gonna die when you go there to do it. And that might be why so much scorn is brought upon the people who do lose their lives. Here's Mark Sinnott talking ever so briefly about it in our film Lost on Everest, which we did for National Geographic, searching for the remains of Sandy Irvin up in the death zone.
Oh wow, the conga line at the top. Holy shit. There was an early weather window, and there was, I don't know, something like 200-300 people trying to climb Mount Everest from the north. Wow. That's really inspiring to see that. That's incredible.
We received countless emails and communications from home telling us how much scorn there was about the climbers on the mountain. People literally ridiculing anybody who would be so callous or ego-oriented that they would go to the mountain risking their lives for such a foolish pursuit. Having devoted literally decades of my life to going to mountains like Mount Everest, I could not have disagreed anymore. And inside my tent one afternoon, it boiled over a little bit, as you can see here. The news is going crazy. I've gotten texts from people I haven't heard from in ages. We are not these people who were on this line getting to the summit. First of all, that's the south side. We stayed down to let the crowds disappear. The press goes crazy. Every freaking reporter is talking about what a bunch of arrogant assholes people are who climb that mountain. It's not true. This 2-part series is in recognition of that spirit of adventure, of people who are willing to take a risk to go after their dreams. In part 1, which I'll put a link to in the description of this video, I talked about the first 9 individuals who died on Everest in 2023. Of the 18 deaths on the mountain, 9 in total were not recovered. They disappeared entirely. And 6 of the individuals who lost their lives were high-altitude workers or Sherpa. On May 19th, Singaporean climber Shrinivas Dattatraya reached the summit of Mount Everest. He went missing soon after. His wife talks about how devoted and dedicated he was to train for the mountain. She said every weekend he would set off at 7 a.m. to walk with his 15 kilogram or 20 kilogram backpack. He'd come back home. Through him, I realized Singapore was more than just a glitzy concrete jungle. He opened my eyes to her rainforests and waterways that were hidden from plain sight. After he summited the mountain via satellite, he sent his wife a message that he had come down with high altitude cerebral edema. He had the help of 2 Sherpas and another person helping him make it down the mountain, but he was unable to. He disappeared. His body has not been recovered. Also on May 19th, Muhammad Hawari bin Hashim of Malaysia disappeared somewhere near or just below Camp 4 after having summited successfully. He was a deaf mute, which is pretty amazing and awesome to consider him endeavoring to climb Mount Everest. He was left alone in his tent, and when somebody came back to check on him, all that was in there was his GPS coordination unit and his down jacket, intimating that very possibly he got up in a hypothermic state and wandered off and very likely fell down toward Camp 3. He was with a company, Pioneer Adventure. It says that he was married with 2 children at home, and on his summit bid, he carried with him a flag that was a message ultimately to say that disabilities should not limit you. And then on May 21st, Australian climber Jason Kennison died while descending from the summit. He was with Asian Trekking, and the expedition director, the managing director, Dawa Stephen Sherpa, well-known and respected Sherpa in the business, told the Himalayan Times that Kennison began showing abnormal behavior near the south summit. So perhaps he had cerebral edema. After 2 Sherpa guides helped him get down to the balcony, Kennison apparently refused to move. When they went back to look for him, he was gone. One of the most inspirational parts of a story about this young man is that 17 years previously, he had been in a significant automobile accident and had been told that he would never walk again, and he spent an inordinate amount of time committed to learning how to walk, and it took him that long to get to Mount Everest. It was a big dream of his. He said in his Just Giving page how the motivation to climb Everest came after a spinal procedure 3 years previously and another round of rehabilitation, and a friend of his told him, "You are capable of being able to do anything you want." And then on May 21st, on Kami Sherpa, he was a kitchen staff stationed at Camp 2. And apparently he went to collect some equipment at the helicopter landing area where helicopters occasionally go for rescues. And he slipped and had a critical injury in falling there. On May 25th, legendary Hungarian mountaineer Szilard Suhajda disappeared above the balcony, reportedly near the Hillary Step. He was endeavoring to climb the mountain without oxygen and without any Sherpa support. This is a story that I covered here on Everest Mystery, and I'll put the link to that video in the description. It's a sad story of an individual truly going for it by his own means, which is something only to be respected. Some of the comments in the video that I did do on Szilard were very harsh in criticizing him. He had a wife and a child at home, and it's understandable that the risk taken when you're a parent is significant. But in a conversation I had with a historian of Everest, Jochen Hemleb, recently, he said, the thing about mountaineers is they climb and pursue their passions without compromise. And the deal about having a family is it's all about compromise. And sometimes when those 2 worlds come together, it's a challenge for those individuals to put a good mix on it. Some individuals, such as Szilard, was supported in his pursuits and his endeavors by his wife very strongly, and some are not. Also on May 25th, a Nepali climber, Ranjit Shah, disappeared near the south summit. He has not been recovered. Very little information is accessible. The story of Shah's disappearance has multiple layers. It's unknown to me what expedition company he was with, but near the south summit, he was with a Sherpa guide, Lhakpa Nuru Sherpa, and they both went out of contact for quite a long time. However, ultimately, Lhakpa Nuru Sherpa did make it back down and unfortunately died in the hospital in early June after being rescued from the mountain. And then on May 26th, an anesthesiologist from Vancouver, Canada, Peter Swart, died in pursuit of his lifelong dream to climb Mount Everest. It's said that Peter was lost bravely pursuing his dream of being on top of the world. It is a dream that he had since he was 9 years old. He awoke on summit day feeling unwell and decided to return to safety to Camp 2, where a helicopter was waiting, but his condition deteriorated. He lost consciousness en route to Camp 3 and suffered a cardiac arrest. And the 18th casualty of the year was 37-year-old Swapnil Garad. He was a police officer and mountaineer. He died in Nepal in June on the 7th after having traveled to Mount Everest. He had earlier climbed Ama Dablam, also in Nepal, and had completed courses in mountaineering, search and rescue. He was a cycling enthusiast, had cycled over 16,000 kilometers, and he said before the expedition, "I've completed many difficult expeditions, and most of the credit for my fitness goes to my cycling habit that I took up in 2018. It also says that according to his colleagues, 6 members of his extended family died in a road accident in 2005, which forced him to discontinue his education and begin working. So there is the devastating toll of the 2023 season on Mount Everest, where more people died than any other season. 18 individuals lose their lives in pursuit of a dream, or supporting individuals in pursuit of the dream to stand on the highest point in the world. And so to put a name on these individuals seems to me to somehow honor and respect what it is that brings people to Mount Everest in the first place. Granted, there's a great deal of overt commercialization on the mountain now, but the individuals drawn there are putting it all on the line to accomplish a great goal. Whether they're after fame and fortune, spiritual attainment or enlightenment, or just for a selfie picture, it doesn't really matter. They are going after something that, no matter how easy it might seem from sea level, is immensely hard and takes great will and determination. So respect to all those individuals who have lost their lives in the pursuit of the mountain. If you've enjoyed this video, I hope you'll take a moment to click the subscribe button and the bell notification so you'll be notified when another video comes out. In the meantime, do a good deed. Don't ask for anything in return. Make the world a better place, one step at a time. Peace be with you.